Welcome to Into the Evidence, the investigation podcast. Every bite, every footprint, every whispered lead tells a story. From smoldering crime scenes to covert packet captures, we follow the people who turn scattered clues into airtight cases, digital forensics examiners, frontline detectives, open source sleuths, and the analysts who stitch seemingly random data into a single gripping narrative. Across this series, we'll reconstruct breaches and break-ins, step by step, keyboard stroke by fingerprint, dissect the investigation triad, and the high-stakes dance between incident response, threat assessment, and forensics. Explore the human side of evidence, from ethical dilemmas to courtroom drama. Meet the innovators using AI, machine learning, and old-fashioned intuition to outpace today's most sophisticated adversaries. Whether you're a student of the craft, a security professional, or simply fascinated by how hidden patterns come to light, you'll find a seat at our evidence table. So tighten your chain of custody, fire up your OSINT toolkit, and join us as we venture into the evidence, where every episode is a fresh case file waiting to be opened. This podcast would never have left the planning room without the insight, encouragement, and behind-the-scenes wizardry of Ms. Razieh Baba E. On behalf of the entire production team and our listeners, thank you, Razieh, for making Into the Evidence possible.
Welcome, everyone. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of security incidents and e-investigations, the role of digital forensics, threat intelligence, and real-world cases like the SolarWinds hack.
Absolutely. It's a vast arena encompassing everything from basic vulnerabilities to, sophisticated supply chain attacks.
Right, and what's really fascinating is how these security incidents, whether it's phishing attacks or DOS attacks, impact an organization. They can range from minor nuisances to complete financial disasters.
Yeah, and you got to appreciate how the content breaks this down by first defining what a security incident actually is. Basically, any unauthorized threat undermining confidentiality, integrity, or availability.
Correct. And it also highlights some concrete examples like remote root compromise and server defacement. These are just the tip of the iceberg when you think about the potential fallout.
Right. It's interesting how the piece even covers what causes these incidents, from weak passwords to outdated software and even insider threats.
Exactly. And then we dive into the key information security goals: prevention, detection, and recovery. Prevention is all about stopping unauthorized access. Detection is uncovering those breaches, and recovery is bouncing back after an incident.
And they put this in a neat table format even, showing how each goal has its specific description, which is pretty effective.
Yeah, it's like the table lays out a roadmap for what organizations need to focus on. Prevention aims to limit losses, detection gets us those clues, and recovery ensures you can salvage what's left.
Yep, true. But I do wonder if the content perhaps oversimplifies the challenges of detection. Sometimes it's not just about scanning networks. It's complex, nuanced work.
That's a fair challenge. It is quite an oversimplification in parts. However, the discussion on the investigations triad does a good job explaining the holistic approach, right? It covers vulnerability assessment, intrusion detection and incident response, and of course, digital forensic investigation.
Yeah, the triad really ties together how each pillar supports incident management. Vulnerability assessment quantifies risks, intrusion detection identifies the breach as it happens, and digital forensics reconstructs the attack's timeline.
Right? And speaking of digital forensics, it's all about preserving evidence in its original form, which ties back to Locard's principle. It pretty much states that something is always left at the scene of the crime.
I love how that principle brings a bit of scientific rigor to the process. I mean, even though it's a classic concept, it still resonates in today's digital investigations.
Absolutely. And digital evidence can be found anywhere, from an end user's device like a smartphone or PC to remote services, and even in transit. It's like a digital footprint everywhere.
Yep, and that, in turn, makes the secure collection and analysis of that evidence super critical. It's all about linking suspects to the crime scene and reinforcing the case legally.
Exactly. The script also covers investigation goals in a compromised system. The focus there is on answering the classic questions: what, who, when, where, and why. Kind of like a detective's checklist.
It is, and I think it's a crisp summary of how forensic analysts work. They need to trace back every step of the attacker's movements, almost like putting together a puzzle.
And then there's the role of threat intelligence, providing evidence-based knowledge about threats so that organizations can take executive, proactive measures to protect their assets.
Exactly, because knowing the threat environment even before an attack happens can be a game changer. It's a bit like having a weather forecast for cyberstorms.
It does put things into perspective. Now, diving into the case studies, the content brings up the SolarWinds hack, a textbook example of a sophisticated supply chain attack.
Right. Yes, the SolarWinds case is really a watershed moment. It shows how attackers can leverage trusted software updates to gain access to multiple systems.
And it's not just about the breach, but the subsequent response, the digital forensic analysis that followed to understand how the breach occurred, who was behind it, and how similar incidents can be prevented.
Precisely. And it also emphasizes that an industry-wide approach, public-private partnerships, and knowledge sharing are essential. This aligns with what they say about the severity and complexity of such attacks.
Yep. And speaking of industry, the content goes on to say that not only large entities, but also insurance companies, law enforcement, and even individual citizens can use these e-investigation methods. It's a broad scope.
Absolutely. Right. Because even personal data breaches can trigger investigations for harassment or wrongful termination cases.
And it makes you think about how ubiquitous digital evidence has become, whether it's an image from a smartphone or log files from an internet service provider.
Definitely. It shows that cybersecurity is everyone's problem these days, not just big corporations.
Now, let's not forget about the additional reading and fun parts. They even drop a nod to the dark web and Tor, and links to some cool resources like Krebs on security.
Yeah, I found that part really intriguing. It adds a layer of real-world context to all this dry technical detail.
Exactly. It reinforces that behind all these mechanisms and investigations, there's a human element, a whole underground world that continuously challenges our systems.
True. And, it's also a reminder that while our technology evolves, so do the methods of these attackers. It's a constant arms race.
Yeah, and as much as I'd like to agree, I do think sometimes the approach in the content might underestimate how quickly attackers can pivot once a vulnerability is found.
Interesting point. That's a really good critique. The document simplifies some elements for clarity, but in real life, threat landscapes are much more dynamic.
Exactly. And that's why continuous assessments and proactive threat intelligence are essential. The investigations triad is, in essence, a framework to adapt to these evolving challenges.
Right. Each component of the triad, vulnerability assessment, intrusion detection, digital forensics, feeds into a comprehensive defense strategy.
And if we think about it, it's like building a fortress. Prevention is the wall, detection is the watchtower, and digital forensics, well, that's the blueprint for repairs after a breach.
That's a neat analogy, though I'd say sometimes the wall has unexpected gaps. Hence the need for constant monitoring and updates.
True, absolutely. It's a balancing act. just like the recent news items mentioned, FAA outages and Twitter disruptions underscore that even critical infrastructures are vulnerable.
Right. And those in the news scenarios further stress the need for industry-wide collaboration. No single entity can manage these threats alone.
Precisely. And our assignments for next week, like analyzing the Equifax breach and Sony Pictures hack, will certainly deepen our understanding. It's a lot to chew on, but it's super compelling.
Absolutely. For sure, if anything, it's clear that our digital lives need robust investigative frameworks. It's a must in today's interconnected world.
And on that note, I think it's a good time to wrap up this discussion. Remember, whether you're a law enforcement official, a corporation, or an individual, e-investigations and a strong security posture are non-negotiable.
Definitely. Thanks for the deep dive. Looking forward to exploring more case studies next time.
Same here. Until next time, stay secure, keep learning, and stay curious about the evolving world of digital investigations.